Do you believe introverts or extroverts make better leaders and managers? I'm curious. Let me know in the comments. And then at the end of this video, let me know if your opinion has changed any. So let's go ahead and define what I mean by introvert and extrovert, because there's a lot of confusion or difference of opinions that a lot of people have. Primarily, introverts and extroverts deal with how people handle social settings or being social among other people. I believe Simon Sinek gave a really great example of kind of how we can look at this. An introvert starts their day with a certain number of coins. As they go throughout their day, they have to be social and interact with people. They are giving those coins out to you. They give a coin to you, they give a coin to another person and another person. At the end of the day, their coins are spent. And then they need to go home into kind of peace and quiet, relax, maybe read a book, and recharge to recoup their coins. Now, on the flip side, an extrovert is somebody who they start their day with no coins at all. But yet, when they go and interact with people, they start gaining coins and they start collecting them. And by the end of the day, they've got a whole bunch. And then, as they're alone and private and quiet, that's when their coins start to dissipate and go away. And so they need the social interaction to remain energized, where an introvert needs the peace and quiet to remain energized. Very basics about that to go a little bit deeper is introverts primarily thrive in settings where it is more calm. It is times they can self-reflect. It is times where they can read books, they can detach from things. An introvert might be the kind of person even that would like to go off into the woods with no cell phone signal, no nothing, and just a couple books and sit and enjoy the peace and quiet. But an extrovert, on the other hand, they're a person that loves to be in parties or networking events or groups of people, and they thrive in those settings. Now, here is the caveat to all of that. An introvert can be very successful in those social settings, but they will tire from the social interaction faster than their extroverted counterparts. Likewise, an extrovert can be perfectly fine in quiet and reading books and having that alone time, but they can't do it for extended periods of time. Those are some things that are kind of contrasting. For myself, I'm an extrovert. I love being around people. I'm energized by networking events. I love going to them, spending time around people. And then when I'm done, man, I am hyped up and ready to go. Same with conferences. I go to a conference, I get energized. I love the conversations, and I'm ready to come back home and let's go. And I'm going to go to 20 networking events in a week kind of thing. Like, I'm energized by being around people more often. I've got people in my family who are introverts. That's not the case for them. So the question is, does that make them a worse leader, or would that make them a worse manager than somebody like myself who is more extroverted in nature? It's a little bit more complicated than that. Stay tuned, because I'm actually going to throw a third term, a third perspective out on you here in just a little bit. The problem is introversion versus extroversion is more of a spectrum. It's not you are one or the other. So here's an example, even for my own journey in life. When I was a child and even in my early teenage years, I was an extreme introvert. Then as I progressed through the teenage years, going into high school, that started to shift. If I took a personality assessment, my introvert to extrovert kind of scale would be somewhere around 50-50. Whereas now, if I took it, it may weigh about 70% extroverted to 30% introverted. It's something that is dynamic. It can change over time. It can change depending on the setting. There are different areas where this can adapt. And so if you are an introvert, don't criticize yourself saying, well, I'm never going to be good at social settings, because it's not true. If you're an extrovert and say, I'm never able to calm down and slow down and just have some peace and quiet, that's also not true. There are things you can learn and you can adapt in those areas. Now, I want to quickly highlight some strengths that may be unique to a leader who is more introverted, but then also I want to give you some strengths that may be unique to somebody who is more extroverted. So an introverted leader, I know this is not the end all be all of knowledge. There's still caveats, there's still exceptions to this, but an introverted leader often is more reflective. They may be more analytical. They may be more strategic, where they're going to be looking and contemplating and thinking about the scenario and situation But even there's instances where they will be more considerate, empathetic, and recognize when people are going through specific struggles. That's something that introverted leaders, because they can slow down and they do look at things from a different perspective, can do really well. And so you may have an introverted leader who excels at people skills. They may excel at the strategy and implementation of new ideas. They may excel at vision casting. There was somebody in a leadership program that I was in years ago who she was an extreme introvert, but she was absolutely brilliant. From an intellectual perspective, she could analyze things, pick apart details, she could understand things in depth, probably better than anybody else in that entire training session. But she was an introvert. She was fantastic as a leader, as introvert. Now let's flip to the opposite side, and I'll use that same training as an example. I was one of the extroverted people. I was one of the individuals that was take charge out in front, that kind of thing. But here's the problem with that. I am great at building relationships, as most extrovert people are. Really good at, if somebody reaches out, hey, let's sit down and have a coffee. Absolutely. I'll sit down. I'll talk to you for 2 hours. I am great at the people skills of building relationships and communicating with people. But the problem is, I struggle with empathy. That's something that extroverted people sometimes can miss. They're really good at building those relationships, but they don't build deep, meaningful relationships. And that's even one of my own weaknesses that I have to call out and draw attention to. Now, another strength for an extroverted leader, that is the thing that most people see, is a lot of times they're very charismatic, energetic. They're the type of people who can get up on stage and give a powerful presentation, but kind of have to look at it. I know some introverted leaders that can get up and give powerful presentations too. So what's the answer? If there's good on both sides, I mean, should you be an introverted leader? Should you be an extroverted leader? That's kind of why we're here, why we're discussing it. Now, for extroverted leaders, those deep, meaningful relationships, it's not saying you can't build those. Especially, let's say you're an extrovert and you get married. You're going to invest a lot of time and try really hard to build and grow that relationship. You can do it. It's possible. The problem is that a lot of people will notice and recognize extroverted leaders rather than the introverted ones. A lot of time, the introverted leader is a little bit more quiet. They're not as ready to jump out and be the spotlight of attention or be the person to speak up in meetings. They may have great ideas and they want to share them in the proper way, in the proper format, but they're not going to be the first person to speak up and share those ideas. It's great when they do, because, hey, if you are an introvert, my introverted friends, you guys are brilliant. You guys have great ideas and things that the rest of us in leadership and the rest of us in organizations, we need that information. And that's sometimes hard to get that out of introverts. The flip side of that is extroverts, they have no issue sharing. They have no issue of having the spotlight put on them. And it may be a good idea, it may be an absolutely horrible idea, but an extrovert typically is going to have no issue in speaking up and sharing it. I'm a person, I joke about it when I'm an extrovert, that I will ask a lot of questions, but I'm also a type of person that will challenge authority, where, hey, you need to do this. Okay, why? Why does it need to be done that way? Why can't we do it this way? This way seems more efficient. I have a lot of ideas and I have no issue communicating those. And so that's a difference between introverts and extroverts. So the last couple of thoughts I want to share with you, one of them has to go back to that energy. I shared about the coin analogy. Extroverts typically, the more they're in social settings, the more they're in the weeds of things, if you will, the more energized they get and the more they contribute to the overall goal. Now, the introvert, like I said, they can do that for a while, but then they need to take a step back and kind of evaluate, self reflect, maybe decompress. Those things perfectly fine. Now, here's why those two elements are important, is because depending on the industry you work in, could play a big role in how successful you are. Now, I'm in the training and development industry. I will go ahead and tell you, more often than not, the vast majority of us are more extroverted. We thrive in this industry. But if you have a good, effective, successful leader at maybe something like accounting or a business strategy or a very precise scientific type of field, an introvert leader more often than not will excel in those areas. And so it's not that any one is better than the other. They each have their roles and their place. So throughout the video, have you already made your decision of which one you think is better or which one you think you would want to be? Hold that thought. Hold on just a minute. Hold that thought, because there's a third category that I haven't shared with you yet. There's a term that a lot of people aren't familiar with and they don't consider, and that is the term ambivert. Ambivert refers to somebody who has characteristics and traits of both an introvert and an extrovert. A lot of times there are some people who do fall somewhere in the middle. They're not one way on one side, one way on the other side. They're somewhere more in the middle. And likewise, in that setting, you may have an extrovert who is trying to slow down more and focus on people in a more slow, calm manner, not be so overpowering or take up all the attention in meetings and do all the talking. And it could even be the situation where you have an introvert who is extremely shy and extremely cautious when it comes to speaking out in front of groups of people, but yet they practice it. They work on speaking skills. Maybe they join a Toastmasters or hire a coach like myself to work on presentation, public speaking skills. Well, then at that point, they are learning more extroverted traits, if you will, and they are becoming more ambiverted by learning. So this is the problem. It's not really one or the other that's the better or worse option. There can be caveats in your field, your industry, where one may be better than the other as far as a performance standpoint, but both can be successful. But what I challenge you as a leader, you're watching this video, and if you've made it to this point, what I challenge you is to identify, do you fall more introverted? Do you fall more extroverted? And can you find ways to become more ambiverted in the middle? Something that takes the strengths and benefits of both and puts them both into action for the success of you professionally, your organization, and your leadership long term. That to me is the most ideal outcome, is when you can fall in the middle and balance the two and have the key quality characteristics of both. So let me know in the comments. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Let me know what you think. If you want to find out if you're more introverted, extroverted, there's quizzes online, there's things you can test, and you can also reach out to me. You can visit my website, dysonleadership.com. I do DISC assessments. It might be you can take a DISC assessment. It will also evaluate some of your personality style, leadership characteristics, communication styles, give you an idea if you're more introverted, extroverted. I'd love to be able to help you out, provide that to you. If you enjoy the video, be sure to leave me a like, subscribe, and look for more content like this coming right here on this channel.